Hi, everyone. Welcome back to
Oh,
Hunter Talk.
hey.
Everything's normal. There's nothing amiss. There's nothing, sad. There's nothing changing. It's just the same old dads, the same old pod, same old Hunter Talk.
It's a normal Monday night.
That's right. As we're being called out for in chat, lies, all lies. Yes. Okay. So I was telling Jordan, there are actually a substantial amount of people who just listen to the pod and they don't follow us on Twitter or Discord or whatever. So
Respect first. First of all, respect.
Respect, first of all. Now, because of that, we are obligated to make the same announcement that we made on Twitter yesterday. And we'll do this just at the top of the pod, kind of get it out of the way, and then we'll go back to having a normal pod. So we are concluding Hunter Talk at the end of this split. So it's been about 5 years since we've been doing the show. It's been amazing and incredible, and you guys have just been really welcoming and supportive and just really awesome. And it makes us really sad to be wrapping up the show. But Jordan and I both personally and professionally are getting much busier these days, and we're not able to, give the same kind of attention and coverage that we would like to for you guys. Plus, we felt like 5 years is a nice round number.
Very round. Yeah.
Kind of makes sense. A lot of this just, we need to be there for our families, for our kids that are growing up quickly, and making the most of the time we have with them. And that, we need to simplify our lives a little bit. So very sad to announce that. You guys have become like a huge part of our lives, obviously. And I think we're going to miss this a whole lot, but we know it's the right decision. Talking through the schedule of this, just so everybody knows. If 100 Thieves makes the playoffs, we're going to continue the pod pretty much as normal. The way that would work out is that the last full normal 100 Talk would be on April 10th. If we don't make playoffs, which we'll talk about how likely we think that is in a little bit. If we don't make playoffs, then that would mean actually next week would be our last full normal pod. Now, in the meantime, we will still be doing Rec League on the normal schedule. And then maybe another couple streams here and there. Jordan's actually going to be out of the country for what is it, like a couple weeks, like end of March, beginning of April. So I'll be holding it down solo while he's gone, but we'll still keep Rec League going, maybe some VOD squad. I don't know. The other dates to know is that our final Rec League in either case, whether we're in playoffs or not, will be Thursday, April 13th. That'll be the last Rec League stream. And then we will have the following Monday, the 17th of April, we'll have like the big goodbye stream. We're planning on just kind of hanging out, watching some old content, having some conversations, just reminiscing with you guys for probably what's going to be a long stream on that Monday night. So we would be honored if you'd put that on your calendars, Monday, April 17th, and you can come hang out with us then, and we can say our proper goodbyes. So, just wanted to say a ton of you have sent tweets and messages and stuff, and thank you for all of that. I've read through everything. I've tried to respond to everything. I know I'm still missing some people on the responses, so I'm sorry if I haven't gotten to you yet, but it's been very overwhelming and like just so much more positive and warm than I think we even anticipated. You guys are really good. So thank you for that. And like I said, we're sad about it. We know it's the right decision, and we're going to enjoy the last month of Thunder Talk together. So
Absolutely. As we make the playoffs.
And win them. So let me just give a swig of the rip here as a toast. to the last month of Undertalk.
Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun.
We're gonna have some fun. Sorry.
We're gonna have some fun. Shout out to everybody who played Warzone in the OG days.
Yep.
Okay, so back to the normal stuff. Thank you, Flight Check crew, for the raid. By the way, we love you guys. We just made our announcement, Flight Check crew. So we're trying to fight through the emotions here. Let's talk about this past weekend now. All that, okay, cool. We got it out of the way. We got a month.
Mhm.
Let's have fun. Here are the games. Great weekend. What happened?
Great weekend.
What
Wow.
a great weekend. Did you think that the weekend, even if you thought we won, did you think the weekend would be so glorious?
No. I mean, I didn't have a lot of confidence in this result happening. Of all the changes we've seen from 100 Thieves rosters over the years, I don't know. I mean, there are a couple notable moments. You talked about this. I think you brought it up appropriately, kind of like that. I can't remember exactly the wording you used, but like, I think there is always the chance that you get like this jolt of fresh energy, positivity, etc. And we've seen that happen to great effect in the past. I didn't have a lot of confidence that we'd find ourselves there, but I'm glad we did, because it makes this upcoming Super Week actually a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I would say the tides turned very quickly. We played entirely different. We seemed like a different group of people. And so we're left with a difficult dilemma here in that, was that all that needed to happen? I think, as always, the truth is a little more complicated. But let's first, before we really dive into that question, let's talk about the games themselves. Let's talk about what we saw, what made the difference. And I think at the top of everybody's list is going to be the weekend that Closer had. Closer returned to tradition in every sense of the word, in that he was on a wonderful pick for him, Lee Sin. He was being aggressive, he was getting kills, he was styling, and he was getting shafted for Player of the Week. So everything back to normal, back to form, just as it should be. Honestly, how did that not happen? And we saw it come out of the gates against Golden Guardians. Hey, let's not forget, Golden Guardians turned in, what was it? Was it a 7-game win streak, 8-game win streak, something like that, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a long one. I think they had lost the game immediately preceding us, if I'm not mistaken.
So they, well, surprise, surprise, we started winning and Leaguepedia is not all the way up to date, Jordan. Just as I said. They won 7 in a row, then they lost to Team Liquid and beat Immortals, right? So they won 8 out of 9 going into our game. And jumped us, they bunny hopped us in the standings, right? And we're looking quite solid. So this was not a gimme. And honestly, if we don't win this game, I don't know how much hope there is left for the rest of the split. Like we would need an emergency, like, self-revive kit or something.
I'm not sure what the foldy sheet starts looking like at that point, but it surely would have made the outlook a lot more dire.
Yep. So definitely a game where players you would think are feeling some kind of pressure, right? Because basically the season was riding on that. And they absolutely delivered. They didn't crumble under the pressure. In fact, it felt free, right? Closer, returning to the point I was making, Closer came out and he got a first blood in mid with Bjergsen. Excuse me. I'll have the cough through the end of 100 Talk, I'm sure. He got the first blood in mid with Closer at 3:45 or something like that. So it was very quick out of the gate, and not satisfied, he basically roamed straight up into top lane and got the kill on old 100 Talk legend Licorice right after that. So with it, 4.5 minutes in the game, Closer sitting at 2-0. And that's exactly the kind of just jolt of energy that was needed. Sometimes I mean, honestly, we saw in the LA Thieves thing from this weekend, like energy swings are real. Momentum is real. You saw what happened to us in that hard point in that first map. It's stuff like that. It could just completely either suck energy out of the room or just blow it up. And fortunately for us, the start that we got off to really set the tone for the whole weekend.
Man, it does feel like I made a point of bringing up last week, I think it was, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point, but like how close some of these first bloods, second bloods have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a great example of just how much that can change the entire trajectory of a game.
Yes.
Especially when you have players as good as Closer, right? Like the fact that there were a couple fights where I was like, "Uh-oh, this could be close." And it's like, "Oh, no. He's so far ahead. There's really no shot that they win this fight. Yeah, they might get a kill or something, but he's going to clean this up."
Right.
So that for me, that felt like a difference from past games where, and especially like the ones we talked about where it was like, oh man, if only this one thing happened differently, this game could have really gone a different direction. That really wasn't too often about Closer, right? We were talking about bot lane, we were talking about tenacity, and so it felt great to see Closer back in the driver's seat and getting the early lead, because we know exactly what he can do with an early lead. Like he's not the kind of jungler who gets an early lead and then like 18 minutes later he's even in CS and you're like, well, what good did that do?
Yeah.
And I think it helped that he was on Lee Sin, of course, but
it definitely helped that he had his power pick.
Yep.
But it didn't, like, one of the things that I mentioned maybe last week, maybe the week before, I can't remember which pod, but one of the things that I felt like we were missing out on was heralds, right? We seemed to be dropping a lot of heralds, and they went the opposite direction in this match. So we didn't just get those 2 kills and be like, all right, now we got a lead. Let's, just kind of
let's scale for the late
let's
game.
ride this lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, they went to use the pressure, right? They generated pressure on the map, used it to secure a herald, actually 2 heralds. In fact, the second herald got a tier 2 in bot even. So we got a lot out of our use of the herald. We, I think, gave over the first dragon, maybe the first 2 even. Like we were just like, hey, let's take the map this time.
Yeah.
And I loved that. That felt like an actual change to me.
Yeah.
As we'll get into, I didn't feel like there was a ton of changes in strategy or anything like that, but that was one where I was like, okay, cool. We are using the heralds. I was tired of seeing teams get so much out of heralds against us. So absolutely loved that emphasis. And it felt like we understood how we were going to use the champs that we had around objectives and around the map. So like looking at what we had as far as the draft goes, we have Gragas, Lee Sin, Azir, Xayah, Rakan, right? And there's a lot of ability to control people with that, especially when it comes to objectives, right? And excuse me. Man, I really got to kill this cough. Especially around Baron. So there was a Baron take. We started off knowing that they were going to be kind of like lagging behind and making it over to Baron, knowing that we had a healthy lead. And what do you see? We see like 2 or 3 of our guys that are using their champions to make sure River does not even have a path to the Baron. And we saw, like, I think the last bit of it was Busio on his Rakan, getting
tour.
Yeah, right. All around the red buff, right? And charming like 3 people along the way and just making sure River like was just CC'd, locked down. Saw some Gragas body slam. We saw the Rakan. It was really nice to see them say, hey, look at what we've drafted. Here's how we can use it to help us achieve what we're actually trying to do right now. So it was like very refreshing. We understood exactly what we were doing and what we wanted to do with the comp that we had. And so I think it's hard to say which of the two games felt like a more controlled domination. I think a lot of people lean towards Dignitas, but I just thought we played so clean against Golden Guardians. I was really, really proud of it.
Yeah. I think obviously Golden Guardian's a tougher challenge at this point in the split. So yeah, I agree. I think I was just looking at the pick bans, like it's actually kind of surprising, not to go to the next game, but that Lee Sin was the second round of bans, not the first for Dig. But it does feel like, in a way, I mean, it was so weird how we played, and there's actually maybe something here that we could dig into a little bit, but like the thing that is crazy about this Lee Sin is that this was the second go around, right?
Thank you for bringing this up. Yes, I feel like people miss this somehow.
This is a weird thing. I don't believe that Closer had like rust he needed to shake off.
No,
I think he could probably play Lee Sin like 45 years from now and still be like top tier. But that's one of the things that seems so strange to me is it even looked. He just looked different on it. And is that the coach diff? Like, and I'm not meaning that to say like, hey, look, we got rid of Kaas and now our problems are gone.
Yeah.
But you do wonder, like, is it just a different mentality? Is it a different approach to the game? I mean, I'm sure we could go back and actually do a little bit more in-depth analysis to understand why it feels so different. I guess the point that I want to highlight here is it just felt different. It felt like he was playing. You remember how Reaper used to say, like, he wants his players to be unchained?
Right.
Like, that's what it felt like. He shows up in mid lane and immediately gets himself a lead that he never gives back. So I love to see it, and I think like there were some flashy plays. There's a great kick in the Dragon Pit that got two people at a key moment. So it was vintage Closer. Like, it was really good stuff.
There was that Q onto Yone in the mid lane, where he timed it so perfectly and could just chase him and finish him off. Look, and
he must have recast as he was in like soul form,
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like as he was rubber banding back, he also
he said, "Now is the time."
As soon as he got there, yeah.
And it was very interesting because one of the things that you and I talked about when we were looking at how's this matchup going to go last week on the pod. We were talking about River and Gory, man, have been insane. Like they have earned a look for some of the all pro stuff. Just with how well they've played this split. And I mean, they got doo-dooed on by our mid jungle. I mean, Bjergsen looked great on his Azir. We saw offensive Bjergsen Azir plays. Been a while. It's been a minute. He was 3-0-9 Closer. We already talked about what he did, 7-2-5. Over to their side of it, Gory 0-4-2 on freaking Yone, and Sejuani for River 0-2-5. So yeah, they were not relevant, and I think it could have gone a different way. If you look at that fight around Dragon Pit, where it was like before things really got out of hand, for Golden Guardians, like they were behind, but they still kind of had a shot. Gory had an opportunity at a huge Yone ult that might have changed the trajectory of the game, and he went just whiffed it. Just whiffed it and paid the price. And I don't, if that play goes differently, we might not have won the game. I don't know. It's possible. But our guys positioned. It's his Annie 2 pixels off thing. He our guys positioned very well. I thought, like when they saw that angle and they saw it happen, you see like an interesting split off. You see, I think it was Tenacity jog down into the Baron Pit and stuff, or the Dragon Pit. So, I mean, I thought we played it well, but he also just missed. And so our mid jungle looked much more cohesive and in form and got the better of their mid jungle, which I think is their absolute strength. I don't think Xayah's been bad at all either. Xayah's been going back
Yeah.
to his old ways, but
Yep.
it just didn't end up mattering for them in this one. So that's pretty awesome for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Worth noting, I think that I don't know how many of these we have, but this is a non bot lane fueled win. And that also feels important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about how like where if not bot lane, where do our wins come from? Um I almost forgot that jungle's an option. You know?
Yeah,
But jungle's an option
with
when you've
how
got
this
closer on your
split's
team.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think if we can continue to get these kinds of performances from him, I'm liking our odds.
Yeah. I mean, this was a very quiet Doublelift game, it seemed.
Mhm.
I thought he still played well. His
Yeah.
Xayah looks very good.
Yeah. Yep. I like Xayah. I mean, I think the team fighting presence he has on that champ is really good. And it's not this is not the this is a very different look, right? Like this is not at all the surprise quadra kill Caitlyn um from a losing fight angle,
Right.
but it sure is nice to be able to have, the added CC, the absolute just the splash damage he brings to these fights. So I'll tell you, I wasn't super crazy about this eye, but here's the nice thing as well. It just gives him that much more survivability. So the fact that he's going deathless, that the Zeri can't really get going and bully, like, can't himself take over the team fights, Stixay, that is.
Mhm.
That was huge. That was huge. Because we've also seen this game play out um against Prince, obviously different games, but there have been games where we had Prince pretty quiet,
Yeah.
and then
And then he
we
had
hit like
14 kills at the end.
25-30 minutes and he can't lose a fight and we can't win a team fight because we're all dead, and then he has 14 kills. So it's like the fact that we held his area to 2-2-2 feels really good on this one.
It sure does. Now you're talking about the escapability for Doublelift, and obviously you're referring to the ult. He has got that distance just seared
Yeah.
into his brain.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't see Xayah's hit the exact range on that ult
Mhm.
as frequently as he does.
There was a great mid lane one. I forgot about that, but it was perfect.
There's a
They were
great
stacked
top
up.
lane one in the dig game too.
Yeah, they were stacked up looking for the I don't know. I'm not a Sejuani connoisseur, but it felt like a bit of a fumbled, like, I feel like ideally you wanna dash out as you are throwing the ult so that there's less chance, and I think here that River dashed out, did the whip, and then went for the ult, kinda
Mm,
giving Doublelift enough time to react. He might have still done it. But anyway, yeah, he got out, he flashed out, and then I think we ended up actually turning that fight. So yeah, it was great. Like that doesn't show up in your stat line, except that you are deathless at the end of the game.
mm,
But that was definitely a fight we won because of the way he denied their full on engage gamble there.
yeah. Well, cleanly executed. I think we can be proud of that win. And of course, we didn't succumb to the trap game, right? That came right after that. It's easy when you get on a high to just look forward and be like, okay, where are we in relation to our competition, and overlook what are they now, like 2-14 team or whatever, 2-15 Dignitas.
Is
That's
it that
just,
bad? Jeez.
it's probably, I mean, I know, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they have won 2 games. Yeah, 2-13
Yeah.
is what it is.
Wow. That's rough.
So, it was an interesting game. Like, we won by a lot and won in good time. It wasn't quite as clean top to bottom though, right? I think we still had mostly positives. In fact, I think when I think about how Dignitas was clawing back a little bit after falling behind quickly, it didn't seem to really be anything we were doing. It was just all of their decision making, which got them a lot of objective bounties and climb back into the game. But focusing on the positives from this, I mean, you saw the first blood come off of the insanely good ward, where basically we saw them sneak into the bush at mid lane because their control ward was not in range of the excellent placement of our normal trinket. And it was I remember, like, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, you saw it start to happen.
Yeah.
You're like, they know, right? They know. They know. I'm pretty sure they know. And sure enough, as soon as they, like, it kind of looked like they engaged onto Jensen, was it? I think this was in mid lane. They were engaging on Jensen, and then immediately that was a fake, and they went towards Ignar in the bush and just blew him up.
Yep.
Oh, that was really, really great. And I felt like that was a litmus test, you know, because it's just like, all right, we're gonna see. Did they know? Are they prepared for this? And sure enough, they pulled it off very well.
Yeah. Watching it, I mean, I thought for sure that we were in vision. I thought for sure they would have seen at least one of our guys who were hovering above our river wall.
Yeah.
But no, played it perfectly. I don't feel like we've seen too many of this play. And again, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it because it's didn't toss. But it does, like you said earlier, it does feel different. I think so many of these plays, right? Think back. I feel like many weeks we have been like, think about the week where we got chain ganked bot lane over and over and over and over and over.
Driving me crazy.
And it was devastating. And the thing that never happened is it felt like we were never ready. Like, we never decided to do what we did in this game, which is like sniff out what they're trying to do and actually just hard counter it in that moment. It's not even like we handshook and said, okay, you guys do that. We'll try for a top lane trade. It was we were ready to match, which was crazy to see.
Yeah.
And it came through just really, really good and well coordinated play. And then we saw it in the bot lane too, right? Like that. It wasn't a fluke. It kind of felt like, okay, these guys they're coordinating in a different way in this game.
Yeah, and it's sniffing out those plays, being able to counter them. Just, we didn't see much counterplay at all over the past, 3 weeks or so.
No.
We also saw something we haven't seen for a few weeks, which was Tenacity adding to the solo kill trophy case.
Oh,
I don't know if he had already gotten Armut. I wouldn't be surprised if he already got Armut earlier in the season, but he got him again. Very nicely. Of course, Tenacity had the 2 Gragas games back to back, which I just don't think of Gragas as a Tenacity champion.
But he played it really well.
But he did. He looked really good. So that was excellent to see. And
I don't think of Gragas as a solo kill champion. Like, I think of the more brawl heavy champs. I mean, it was kind of a slow, like, drawn out process, right? Like, you could kind of see it coming from 15 seconds away.
Yeah. We've been in enough rec leagues to know.
Yeah, it was a well placed cask, get him into turret range, and then he just refused to let him leave. So it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I should have brought this up earlier. We were talking about counterplay. Closer had a really, really great match of what Santorin was trying to do in the bot lane. Like, I think we've seen this gank in the LCS in bot lane where they kind of sneak up the bushes a lot more this year than we've been used to seeing it. And Closer's timing, sensing that, being down there for support at really the exact right time. You don't want to match the timing exactly. You want to be like just a bit behind so that they commit and then, oh no.
Right.
And that's what we got out of that. And it was, if he wasn't there for us, it was a likely double kill for them. It's a likely 2-0 for them. And instead, we came out with the 2-0 because it was perfectly executed. I think Busio had a great stopwatch during that just to make sure he survived. Didn't give over any gold on the other side of it. Man, I loved seeing that play. So we definitely had some counterplay in mind, and good decision making. And then in general, the coordination that we saw in the engages and the fights, I think was on a different plane than it's been for a while. I mean, maybe it's partially due to the rookies kind of slotting in better nowadays.
Mhm.
This was not Busio's first recon game, as we mentioned before, but he looked very good on it. He had a couple of 3-man knockups in the middle of fights, including just absolutely sick, devastating fight at the end in topside, where I haven't. It's been a while since I've felt that much joy watching a team fight, like for our squad, you know. But
Yeah.
it was like a thrill, right? It was a
Yeah.
thrill to watch that team fight and see it play out. Um,
They can be very thrilling.
yeah, it really was. See, like you
Yeah.
get that kind of recon engage. It can be.
Oh.
I remember in Rec League when Unreal Dreamer did that insane like
Mm.
flash down to the like dash and then W charm thing on
Yeah.
me, just like came out of nowhere, like a lightning
I
bolt.
think
That's that
it's
kind of
I
thrill.
think I think we were both leaning against him in that game, and it was a thrill and also like a nightmare. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
it was over before it began, kind of.
Mhm.
Like,
But like I couldn't help but appreciate it, you know?
yeah, oh for sure. Yeah. Um, maybe not a mistake that Poom's first thrilling match for us was on Recon as well.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's a thing. It's definitely a
it
thing.
works well
Glad
for us.
Recon is back in the meta.
Yeah.
Um, and so, well, let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. So, Busio has played a lot of Lulu as of late.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Um, this split, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Lulu games. We had him on Soraka, we had him on Karma, and he's been on Lux, which is a little bit different, but still, kind of that enchanter deal.
mhm.
Um, Having him on something where he's more playmaking, I think is more true to who he is as a player. Now,
Right.
you can't just be like, well, I play that kind of thing, so let me do it and slot right in. Like, that's not how it works, right? You have to be able to play
Right.
everything. And even
Yep.
if you are super good or comfortable on a style of champion, it still has to work. It still has to work at the level of LCS in an important game. So even his past, recon games, like the one against FlyQuest that went, so badly for him, um, it just felt and looked different in this game.
Hmm.
He looked way more comfortable and confident,
It's a
and
theme? Are we getting a theme here?
it just seems like something has clicked with him. I don't know if it's just champ pick or if it's his approach or outlook or his form. It's hard to tell when he's on enchanters a lot, right? But I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, I will put out there, I think, like, let's go back to his ring around the red buff, right? Like, that play only works when you are the team in the dominant position,
sure.
right? Because if not, you're the ones who are trying to find a way in to the Baron pit, and there's a very good chance that you are on, you know, Busio charm, suicide duty, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Or
just get
pray,
as many as you
Q,
can.
Q and pray.
Exactly, Q and pray. So, or is it a W? I don't know. I don't play Recon.
It's a Q, I think.
Like, yeah, I think it's easy to look good when the team looks good around you, especially in support. So I
Hmm.
don't want to, and I think Busio's been one probably. I don't know. I've seen a lot of questioning of Busio,
Hmm.
and I think to be fair to him, it's important to just keep in mind that like some of these games, there's just not a lot of winning angles for a support player to take when like when things aren't going well. To be sure, he has contributed to a lot of that, you know, the rough seas that we've been in. I'm not giving him a pass there, but I think it's always nice to see a game like this where it's like, wow, he looks kind of like a different player. Like for me, that feels like, yeah, what if you can get your team to be consistently playing at a different level? does he continue to just kind of cruise along, or does he start to show a little bit more flair, make some of these bigger plays? Like, essentially have the fans taking note of his contributions to the game, not just not messing it up, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we're starting to see is, yeah, he can actually bring some style to these. He can kind of make his imprint on the game, and that's fun to see. And I think for a rookie, you expect for that kind of play, for somebody to feel more comfortable in that kind of position as they get more experience. So I think that bodes well. We now have a couple of games like that where we can say, yeah, I'm not going to be nervous or upset if I see us lock Rakan for him in the future.
Right. So overall, feels pretty positive there. I do want to talk about tenacity, but I think I'm going to save that for later because there's a question that kind of gets into some of those things. So
Cool.
let's save that for a bit. The one other thing I would mention from this, and I alluded to earlier, was Bjergsen being more assertive and aggressive. I don't know. When we were losing, I had a lot of people either DMing me or replying to me about like, this is what he does. He just kind of sits back and is passive, and you're wondering why he doesn't win you the game. And then maybe things change in playoffs or whatever. But we definitely weren't getting an offensive-minded Bjergsen for a while.
Yeah.
We saw, goodness gracious, when was that game? I think it was the Team Liquid game, was it? The Victor game that he had that was really good. So we saw like a glimpse of it then, and then a couple of bad games. But I feel like he's back on the saddle and playing offense. The Talia, he's made some really good Talia plays over the course of the split. It's so hard because watching him is sometimes like what it feels like to watch LeBron at this phase of his career. So sorry to bring up traditional sports like I always do, but so LeBron is, in year 20 of his NBA career, and still putting up like 29.5 points per game, by the way. But the thing is, it's like sometimes when you watch him during the regular season on maybe a weeknight, and maybe the game's not on national TV, it just seems like, why isn't he just going ahead and winning this game? Because he's capable of it, but he just doesn't. And that's kind of what it feels like with Bjergsen sometimes. At least it has this split. I haven't been on this side of Bjergsen before, where, hey, this guy's actually our guy.
Right.
But
why isn't he winning us?
It's like it seems like he's picking his spots a little too sparingly. So I hope that we get more from him that he was playing this weekend, which is, going for the plays, flash forward for the Xayah ult, right? Aggressively Talia ult in, find those moments of CC that really make a change. I mean, he has found people with various forms of CC and locked him down, and the team just pounces on it and erases whoever gets unfortunately caught by him. Like, dude, it's great when it works. And so we just need him to be offensively minded, I think, more than just scaling. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have the opportunity to actually have him play a zillion at some point.
Is it still getting banned every game?
It actually went unbanned this weekend somehow.
Wow, yeah.
But it's been a pretty consistent ban before that. So
yeah.
Did I even call out the stat lines for him? 3, 0, and 9 on the Xayah, but it felt way more impactful than that to me.
Yeah.
And then on the Talia 5, 0, and 7, which I think feels about right, just a great weekend from him, something that we definitely need some more of soon.
Yep. You know who else had a great weekend?
Me.
Closer.
Oh, yeah. Also.
Yeah. Just going back to our somebody should have considered him for player of the week, probably. It's worth a thought. He's got it before. He doesn't need any more of those action figures.
You know, I don't even have a single one of those. That's kind of crazy. I never like played the MasterCard game, you know, to try and
I'm
get
surprised
those.
you didn't open a new MasterCard just to be eligible for that. If you didn't already have one, maybe you already have one.
My wife.
Oh, you already
has
have one
some.
because you get like the
Yeah,
fan benefits. Yeah.
my wife has one. Yeah. Okay, so let's come back to the question. We just went through the list and named off all of these things. Like, hey, this was different. This was great. You know, we rebounded all this stuff. So the big question I think that everyone's asking is about Nukeduck. How much of this is like, hey, we made this change, and now because of this change specifically and the resulting approach and strategy, we're doing better. Other than we had our quick honeymoon with Nukeduck, where the players just kind of like have the pressure off of them for a bit with the change, and they can, you know, just be free and play. So we have to suss out. Well, we don't have to, but we're choosing to suss out how these pieces of the puzzle fit, how much we can attribute to Nukeduck. It's only 1 week, right? So what's your take so far on, you know, how much Nukeduck could have possibly done in a week, and how much we should expect going forward and everything like that? Let's just like dump some thoughts on Nukeduck on me.
Yeah. The first thought I want to have on Nukeduck is I think it's easy to dismiss this as being like well, it's only Golden Guardians and Dignitas, right? Or Team Dignitas, as I like to call them. And and I think we should not do that. And here's why.
Shouldn't call them Team Dignitas.
No, we should do that. We should do that. Just like we should call them Team Liquid Honda. We should do that. Although I don't actually know if Team Dignitas is their preferred, if that's just what Google likes to call them in their widget. So I'll give them a pass. But here's why we shouldn't dismiss Nukeduck's results. These are exactly the teams that we need to beat if we want to achieve what it is we essentially have declared to be the minimally acceptable outcome, right? Which is make playoffs. So his job was, hey, welcome to your new job. We're going to need you to get us into playoffs. So like you have.
By the way, if you lose this weekend, we're probably not making playoffs.
Right. So I think it's easy to kind of say, oh yeah, but let's see how he does against, you know, FlyQuest when he plays them next split. And, you know, good for him that we've already lost twice. Doesn't even get a chance to lose to them. But really, that's not his job, right? His job is to get us into playoffs. And so this is huge, right? This is a huge achievement that if coaches ever get credit for anything, which you could make the argument that, or ask the question of how much credit do they ever deserve, that's fine. That's a different question. But if you're prepared to give coaches credit for the outcome of games of League of Legends, then you have to give him his moment, right? Like he had the decisions to make here, even if his decision was to step back and make fewer decisions, and we got the outcome that we needed. So
yeah,
that's how I think about
the box was checked.
The box was checked.
So you're happy so far.
Happy so far.
If you're on 100 Thieves, yeah.
Maybe his expert analysis was, you know what? I'm gonna show up for draft because I have to, but then I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna watch this one from home because I think the players got it. If that's what he did, I don't think that's what he did. If it's what he did, it worked.
Well,
good for him.
You're not too far off. I'll get into that in a second. I do want to make one point though before I go there. I think like with coaches, it's there's a very small number of them that probably really like make the difference, and the team is truly like way better off for having that coach, right? And I mean, honestly, I think Reaper is probably in that category, right? Where you have like a coach that actually does have enough of an influence and a mind to affect how the team plays in a material way. I don't think most coaches are like that. And with an esport that's so like based on ego, you know, players who sit in their bedrooms and dedicate all their time to this, they don't want to, you know, when these people, like, I promise you, when Closer was like Silver 2 and had played League of Legends, I mean, for closer, I'm guessing this is like 1 hour into his League of Legends journey, but I'm just making a point. I promise you, when he was Silver 2, he was still flaming his teammates and thinking he's better than them.
Yeah.
Right? And so that continues as you climb the ladder. You never think the other people are better than you. And then you get to the pro level and it's like, I have a coach? Are you sure about that? You know what I mean? And like, I think like it's, we've mentioned how you need kind of like an adult in the room to be with your League of Legends program. And I believe in that strongly. And I believe that there are a lot of teams where the coaching impact is minimal. I believe pretty universally that players don't really think they need coaches. So it becomes this interesting dynamic and kind of like a choice for Nukeduck to make. And there was an interview that he did with Digon where he said basically that like, he's like, I am a player. I know what this is like. And I kind of just feel like I wanted to let them have more influence. He's like, I'm just getting started. I didn't think about what my head coaching process was going to be because I wasn't hired to be a head coach. So right now I'm kind of just feeling like, let our team do this, And from what the things he was saying, I think it's just kind of like for now. And I really mean this for now. I don't mean to suggest that this is going to be his permanent approach or philosophy. We don't know that. He doesn't know that. He said himself, he doesn't know that. He doesn't even know if he's going to be the head coach, right? But what he did say was that he does not want to take unnecessary time from the players. He said, I don't want to sit down and have like a 30-minute, part of our VOD review about something that is either not going to be fixed or not important, or is not what we're working on right now. It's like, I don't want to use too much time if it's not necessary. Let's just talk about what we can fix and what we can do. Let's give them some more time. Let's let them relax a bit more. So this clearly is the approach that he's embracing for right now. And he knows, he admits in this interview, he's like, yeah, we have like our problems. We have our things to fix. He said our team, he's like, I looked at it in our team. We struggle with dynamic gameplay. We struggle with macro and playing quickly. Very accurate. That lines up with my eye test for what the team has been like this split. But he's saying like, I think the players kind of know that they have these problems and we'll fix what we can and not dwell on what we're not going to fix at the moment. Right. So it was
do you think the players haven't called that out?
Yeah.
Like they don't need the coach to say to them, guys, some of your macro decisions aren't good.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody in the room who would say after hearing that, like, are you sure? I thought our macro was perfect. So yeah, it's less about pointing out to them the things that are not going well. Any one of them could do that as soon as the game ends, I'm sure. But I think it's more about facilitating the conversation about how do you meaningfully improve that in a very short time.
Yeah. I mean, we've all had the experience like at work or something, right? Where it's like you make a mistake and you made a mistake and your boss can either choose to like just kind of trust that you made the mistake and what you need to do to fix it. And if you don't know, you'll ask. Or they can make the point with you, and kind of drill it home and go over it with you. And the whole time you're like, yes, I get it. I promise I get it. I just messed up. You know what I mean? Like, we've had experiences like that. We know how that is. And I think like when it comes to being week, this was week 7, right? Wait, was it 7 or 6? It was 7. When it comes to being week 7, maybe they don't need so much of that constant correction and pressure, and maybe a little bit more of a breather will be beneficial to them. So I think the current approach from Nukeduck is probably a pretty nice mental break for the guys. And I don't mean to say that Nukeduck's not going to teach them anything, or they're not going to put them through paces, or not going to break down their problems in VOD review or anything, but just that he's going to trust more of what the player's instinct is and the player's brains.
So are you a Ted Lasso fan?
So everybody has told me that I would really like that show. I just have never watched it.
Okay.
I have nothing against it. I just haven't watched it.
I'm debating whether or not I make an analogy here.
You should, because a lot of other people know it.
Okay. So in Ted Lasso, I'll make this quick. There is a player who is like the captain of the team. He ages out. He leaves the team. He retires. He goes to be a pundit. He realizes that's not actually what he wants to be doing. He wants to be a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he comes back, but before he does, he has a moment with the captain who replaced him to kind of set him straight and say, "Hey, look, you're going about this all wrong, right? You've lost the point. You're not having fun. You're in your own head. Get out of your head." It's a show, so it works immediately. But I think the point stands, which is there's room for a person who understands what it means to play a game. And only the way that somebody who has dedicated their entire life to playing a game, there's room for that person to connect with and help people see things in a way that no one else can. And I don't know Kaas's background. It's possible that he has a similar one, so this might be a moot point. But, even Flowers on the cast said that Nukeduck is a player's coach. Like, he's grinding Champions Queue with them. He's playing. Like, he gets these guys. He knows what it means to be a professional. And so I think it's entirely possible that he came through and said to them, "Hey guys, you're in your heads. Like, you're not playing this game like you know you can. That Lee Sin looked pretty dumb last week. I'm sure you can do a better job. I saw you missing, sonic waves. That doesn't happen. I can't remember the last time I saw you do that. What's going on here? Like, just play the game. Go in for a level 3 gank in mid lane, see what you can get, and then let's go from there." Right? Like, who knows what actually happened? We'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's room for that kind of thing, especially when you have somebody who has pretty recently been in a similar spot as these guys. Because to your earlier point, it means something different when it's somebody who can say to you, "I've been here. I know how this goes. Take my word for it. Like, you're better than this and go play like it." Versus a coach saying, like, of course they're both coaches, but a person who doesn't have that background to go to you and say, like, "At 8 minutes, here's what I want you to be thinking about," right? Or like, "Here's the macro way we want to play as a team. So
Yeah.
make sure your play fits within this style." It's just a very different thing. And again, with coaches, we never know what's actually happening, but I could see something like that. It sure feels like some conversations like that happen because this team looked different when they came out last week.
Yeah. Now, I don't mean to say this as if I'm advancing a counter argument. I'm just saying it to put it out there and to say it, right? Where I do think that sometimes the honeymoon effect is a real thing. Sometimes just literally just a change. I think Sheryl Crow taught us change will do you good. And
Will do you good.
even if it's, maybe like negative long term, just temporarily, there can be some good effects just from shaking things up a bit.
Yep.
It's possible that that's what this is. Maybe it won't work out in the long run, but
maybe not.
At least the first weekend, it went great. And, hopefully the timing of this particular approach is just what we need. That's kind of where I'm at with it. That's where I'm guessing. It's just like, it's nice at this moment for these guys to have a, more player trusting environment. So, okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the playoff scenarios. You guys, I'll even dump this in the chat for you. Gilded Nova, shout out Gilly, sent me the foldy sheet link. So there it is for you guys. I'm going to particularly look at the team specific stats tab of this foldy sheet. And sorry, I'm not putting this up on the stream, but basically this is our weekend broken down. If we go 3-0, so first of all, we're playing TSM on Wednesday, EG on Thursday, and Immortals Progressive on Friday. So if we go 3-0, we lock playoffs 100%. Okay. In fact, we have a 60% chance. And these chances, they're based not on what's actually likely, but on the scenarios, like just the probability of a scenario, not weighted for how good the teams are, just like how many scenarios work out this way. It's 60% for top 4 lock or a tie. And, so 3-0 is great, cool. I don't know we'll get to talk about it, I guess, during predictions. EG's been looking better, and they're on our list. So a lot of people don't think we're going to take them down. So let's look at the 2-1 scenarios. 2 wins, 1 loss. If we lose against TSM on Wednesday, but win against EG and Immortals, then we are at 90% to at least force a tiebreaker to get into playoffs, 61% for a pure, like, we're in playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But if that switches and instead of losing against TSM, we beat TSM and one other team, whether that's Immortals, pretty likely, or EG, maybe a little less likely, suddenly we've got 100% shot at least a tiebreaker, right? 88% chance getting into playoffs. Okay, so just winning TSM puts us in that 88% of scenarios will get us in.
Wow.
Pretty awesome, right? And not, I don't think, where we expected to be after last week. So those are the 2-1 scenarios for us. Okay. Pretty rosy overall. Now, if we go 1-2, meaning we lose 2 games, if we lose the TSM game, or I'm sorry, if we win the TSM game, we are at 76.5% to force a tiebreaker and 51% off to lock playoffs. Okay. So winning TSM still gets us at least 50% making the playoffs. But if we do not win against them, so say we only beat Immortals and we lose the other 2 games, that drops dramatically. 9% to lock playoffs, 40% for a tiebreaker. Okay. So TSM, the key game of the weekend. And by the way, if we go 0-3, it's a virtual certainty that we're out. We have like a very outside shot at a tiebreaker if we're 0-3, but a lot of dominoes have to fall the wrong way, and it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
So
it's worth noting as well, Cole, that even a 1-2 with a win against EG has the same odds as against Immortals, because my assumption is because EG is already pretty much a lock, so we're not.
Yeah, so it doesn't move the needle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's
really,
a big game then, TSM. Yeah, TSM is going to be a massive game. It's basically like if we beat TSM, we're looking at somewhere between 75 to 90% that we at least get a tiebreaker to get in. And then if we lose to TSM, that goes way down to 9% to maybe 40 on a tie. So yeah, this is going to be a deal. This is going to be a deal. The TSM game, which is the first game of the weekend, is basically the thing.
Yeah.
Now it's worth noting, part of the reason this is so meaningful is because we're currently tied with TSM and CLG for that. Was it 5th place? I think is what it is.
Yeah. Basically the last spot, right? Yeah.
And we beat TSM earlier in the split. So if we beat them again, we have the 2-0 over them and we won't need the tiebreaker to resolve, that standoff between us and them. That's why this game in particular is so pivotal.
Yep.
So hearing all of that, Jordan, what are you looking like for this weekend? Like, how do you like our chances? What do you think is going to happen? I know we usually do predictions at the end of the pod, but I think, given talking playoff scenarios, we can go ahead and talk about this here.
Wow. Jeez.
Do you want to hear some of TSM's recent history?
Yeah.
Probably helpful to review that. So they lost to what was it? They lost to Golden Guardians, as I said last week, and they beat Immortals. If you continue to go back, they have a win against Team Liquid. Doesn't mean as much as it used to, boys. Losses against EG, C9, and CLG. Win against Dignitas. And then all the way back to February 17th, a win against FlyQuest. Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, I think they were the first ones to beat FlyQuest. But did not get any wins against teams that were better than them other than FlyQuest. Like all split.
Well, you know what, Cole? This will be the last regular season prediction I make for this team. And so here's what I'm going to do.
That was depressing.
Yep. True, though. I am going to predict that I'll give it to you once. We're going to 3-0. 3-0 our way out of here. And here's why. TSM has solo, and that is a point of failure in the roster. So that will win through top.
You better not be cursing us.
I don't know if you saw this, Cole. Sorry. Yeah, Evil Geniuses. They played with a player that you know very well and that I know very well. You know who that player is.
Someday.
They played with Ryoma.
You sure?
I don't know.
You're
I
not
think
talking
that
about
was
someday. Oh, you mean FBI?
Oh, that's right. That's just I didn't realize this. They basically just played with our team.
We do know them well.
I don't know. I don't know what the official story is there. I think it's just that JoJo wasn't feeling well, right? But look, let me tell you, when you get mid lane swippy swapping, that's just that you got to watch out. So I'm going to say that EG is on the back foot. Take advantage of that. And then we play Immortals Progressive last. And look, I've been saying it this whole time. We're gonna beat them. It's our destiny.
You don't think we're gonna trip at the finish line against Immortals Progressive?
No. No, but actually, if we lose against them, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, it's still, you like to have that 100% playoff lock. Keep our fate is in our own hands, which is always a great place to be. But no, we'll beat them. Yeah, 3-0, easy.
Now, I'm wondering if chat knows anymore. I mean, I think the assumption was that JoJo was sick, right? And that some of the team was sick. I know Someday was sick.
Yeah.
So you think yes or no to they'll be back in time?
Look, I think even if he's back, we've been through this before. Different mid laners in and out. JoJo's already not had one of his best splits. I just think even if, yes, he had bad lasagna and that's why he wasn't playing, doesn't matter. I just think that once you start that carousel up, you're just rolling the dice. And I know they won that game. So
joke's on you
feel free to disregard. Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad lasagna.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
And there you have it.
Yeah. That's my guess. That's not my guess. That's my prediction.
Well, guess that leaves it in my hands, right? To make the final regular season prediction of the podcast.
I got to go out on a high note. Be true to myself.
And that's what I have to do as well. I have to be true to myself. And 100 Kids, true. You know, we have uncompromising principles here at this podcast. All right. Uncompromising. We will not make exceptions to our principles. So I'm not going to lie to you. That's not what I do. We're going to win against TSM. It's going to be a banger. we're going to lose to Evil Geniuses, then we are going to squeak out a close victory against Immortals.
Wow.
Prophet has spoken. 2-1.
Spoken.
And we will make playoffs.
Oh. I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved to hear that.
That's what I think is going to happen. I think we will make it in. And it's does it feel to you like if like once we make it in, it doesn't matter anymore? It's just like, great. Oh,
yeah.
Glad we didn't miss it. Like that's all for the rest of the whole split.
Well, I guess I said our fate's in our hands. Even if we lose, I kind of overlooked this important point. We're still a lock, 100% lock for a tiebreaker at least if we win 2 games and lose 1.
Yeah.
Unless we lose against TSM, then we're not. So we got to win that one. But as you've predicted, Cole, as you've prophesied, we will be at least in a tiebreaker, which is great.
I don't even think we'll hit a tiebreaker. I think we'll just get in.
Just be a straight lock. Okay. Yeah. All
right. Okay. So we made our predictions. I know we're out of order, but let's go ahead and do some listener takes. Now, this was hilarious to me this week. Obviously, last night we made the announcement about the show wrapping up at the end of the split. When I put out the call for takes, as I usually do, literally no one responded.
They're like, you guys are done with the show. Why would I?
Yeah, everyone gave up on the show. So I was like, did we not make it clear that we're still doing the podcast for another month?
It wasn't clear.
Did we not make it clear? Good Burton has just found out the news by me saying that. Yeah, he did. I think he did. I didn't see him. Oh, okay, you JK. Okay. Yeah, I did not see Burton around last night. Anyway, now shout out JC101 who eventually got a take in there as he always does.
Good. Yes.
But I literally had to beg for the rest. Back, guys, we're still here. Give me some takes. So we did get some. Not as many as usual, but let's run down there. JC101, speaking of, he said, and it wasn't really much of a take. He said, me, get Busio off of enchanter duty, and then 100T with Busio and Rakan. We win big. .gif.
There it is.
I'm not like he played great on the Rakan this weekend. Loved it. Looked great. I'm still not really thinking it's that bad to have him on enchanters. Like, I know we lost games and stuff, but like, I know it's fun for development and for entertainment value to see him on stuff that maybe is more exciting and maybe more true to who he is. I don't really care that much. I don't really care that much.
I mean, here's an interesting way to look at it, right? I feel like when somebody's on enchanter duty, one of the things that happens is you put a lot more of the onus to win key moments on your carries.
Yeah.
Right? Like that Baron contest didn't happen because he was on Rakan. We didn't coin flip with and like Sejuani's got a great coin flip for the Baron. So yeah, like that's a very specific example of a time that pick helped us out. But I kind of like the fact that he's not now just waiting for things to happen and to like ult the right person, you know? It feels good.
You know what? That's fair. I accept your argument and retract what I said. Mont, yes, the Mont who made the Rip It video game that we played on stream.
Amazing.
Says, feels like we started drafting like what we did in the first few weeks. It allowed Closer to actually play the game this time. Also, Closer was robbed of Player of the Week, but he def won MEP, which is hilarious. Also, it is interesting, is it interesting to you that we played significantly better the moment our coach is gone? So first of all, the end part, yes, highly interesting that change led to a much better weekend out of us. We already went into that. The amount of difference, the delta from Kaas and Nukeduck is pretty insane. I don't know what to make of it completely. But the thing about drafting feels like we started drafting like what we did in the first few weeks. So thankfully Leaguepedia is now up to date with the first 2 weeks of the LCS spring split. But We played we played a bunch of Zeri in the bot lane, right? We tried tenacity on a variety of things, closer on engage. It's not that different, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we've done unusual things or maybe different things. Like, I don't know, we had a Tristana mid game, right? We had we tried the Maokai a couple times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like our draft hasn't been that stagnant. It's been like right in the middle of like how much stuff we've done and how unusual it is. It's like just if it's a spectrum, it's like right in the middle, right? And so I don't feel like we did anything dramatically different. Am I tripping?
I don't think you're tripping. I think I got to bring up this point also. Like, I know Riot has been trying to shift the meta basically throughout the course of this entire split, and perhaps they've finally had a little bit better luck doing that. Again, there will be people who are paying closer attention to the patch notes who could say this for sure, but like maybe a part of this is less that we are, we're not pouring all of our resources into bot lane, and more just that there are other positions that are more viable from a like doing more with the resources they have position. So it's probably some mixture of those things is my guess, but it doesn't feel to me like it's not
we're
starkly different
5
on the
years
draft
into
standpoint.
this and still saying it's probably a little bit of both.
It's because it always is.
Have we
it's
learned
never
nothing?
one thing. It's never one thing. And here's the other thing that you can be sure of. Riot thinks that I'm sure they know that they don't actually control the meta, right? I'll make an analogy here. League of Legends is a car, and they have a spotter who is sitting on top of the car.
Oh,
and they're relaying instructions to the balance team who is driving the car with their eyes blindfolded, right? And they're running over cones, they're driving over the curb. It's like they don't actually know how to get from point A to point B. Like from the start of the split, they've been
legendary.
They've been saying like any moment now. Isn't it weird? They're like, we think that engage supports will be back anytime, probably pretty soon. It's like, well, I mean, you guys are the ones pressing the buttons, right? Like, are they back or not? Like, we think they'll probably be back.
Our 200 years of experience suggests that we think maybe soon, maybe
right.
not.
And then you've got the like the character development, like the champion creation team, who it's like the analogy for this is they're just like taking off wheels as you go. It's like, you guys don't need that one, right? Like we just found this in the engine. Did you need this? Get rid of that.
And as PC's pointing out, they like hyper buffed Yuumi like recently. It's like
that was so good. It's perfect.
Come on!
It's absolutely yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we should expect more of that. I'm guessing it makes it difficult to draft.
But just returning to the essence of the take, Demont here. It feels like the change for me is more like in attitude of the players and approach of the players more than the champions they're on. That's what I will.
Fair, very fair.
To me.
Yes.
Okay, Jobless Jack, who is not actually an LCS big guy. He's more on the Call of Duty side, but he brought up
on the Yuumi thing. Mr. Carson just said, "Believe she can't be picked till after MSI." Like that's not even that soon.
No, it's not. That's pretty bad.
Wow. Yep.
Jobless Jack. Okay, and maybe Burton missed earlier because he said closer champ though felt very impactful. Yes, but do you remember when he played it before? Do you remember against CLG when he played the same? Yeah, and that was the week before this.
It's weird.
Just saying.
Yeah. Jobless Jack.
Jobless Jack says, thoughts from a non-LCS fan I've heard all of the stuff against 100 Thieves in LCS, and it's, quote, bias against 100 Team. Do you guys agree with that? If so, what do you think is the reasoning behind it? Just because we aren't an OG team? So this is actually awesome because most people who watch the show, and like especially those who send in takes, been here forever, right? So we've lived with this question, and we talked about it like early on, but we haven't talked about it in a really long time. So this is like, it's kind of fun to bring this up kind of like towards the end of the pod, right? So do we agree that the community is biased against 100D? And what do you think the reasoning is? And he suggests, is it because we're not like one of the originals? So what do you think?
I love this question.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that Jobless Jack starts watching the LCS. That would be outstanding.
Oh.
I think it's been interesting, right? It's always something different, and I think this is probably true to a certain extent for 100 Thieves. I guess I'll just give my answer at the start here. I don't know why. I haven't yet figured that out, but I think you see pieces of it in almost every iteration of this, or every roster that we field as an organization. Maybe Valorant is the exception. I feel like people love Asuna so much that
well, we were part of the originals in Valorant.
That's true. We were part of the originals. So
not with that team though, if you remember.
Yeah. So here's the thing, I think, for LCS. People, I think it does probably come down to that we're not the originals. And then it morphed as needed to find a different reason to describe it. Because people won't be overt about well, I like only 3 teams in the LCS, and your team's not one of them. I don't think people are quick to say that because they recognize that feels kind of snooty.
Right.
So usually what you hear instead is there's no NA talent on this team, or this team doesn't actually care about winning, or all they want to do is
sell
hoodies. And depending on where things currently sit, that response will change. Even after winning, I think that's when it shifted to, but it's not an NA roster, right? So there is no way to resolve it. I think it has been actually super interesting to watch the LCS here. There are a ton of fan signs out there, and a lot of them are for Doublelift and Bjergsen. And you see a good number for Busio and Tenacity too. So it'll be interesting to see if we can hang on to this roster for a while. It's possible that, but I think as soon as those players go, if I'm being realistic, people move on to the next thing.
So that's the thing. Most of the old crowd for LCS, they just care about the players. They don't really care about the teams. And the players were so closely aligned with certain teams for a long time, which made them long-standing fans of those teams. But even then, the people who were big TSM fans when Bjergsen was there, they're not really cheering for TSM right now. They kind of move around with the players. So there's that aspect of it. And 100 Thieves has dabbled in heritage iconic players. We brought Meteos and Aframu into the first iteration of the team. And I think, despite my opinion of Meteos and his maturity level, which I think, by the way, is better now, but side note, the fact is he probably was responsible for the majority of the fans that we had early on. He is such an enduring personality that him being on 100 Thieves helped give us the kickstart it did. So there's that. But ultimately, when returning to the question about the org, I think yes, there is some degree of dismissal of 100 Thieves because we just didn't win as much as a team that people would give those benefits to. Cloud9 gets the benefit of the doubt virtually all the time, right? And it's because they have always been super competitive and have always won, and paired that with having those personalities, right? I understand that. TSM, been a contender forever also, and one of the OGs for sure. They've won plenty. And Team Liquid was a joke for a while until they went on a very dominant stretch. And then all of a sudden they got the benefit of the doubt all the time. Right? It was all the time. It's like, well, Team Liquid's going to figure this out. Team Liquid's going to figure this out all the time. We never got that. Even when we won the title, we never got the benefit of the doubt. No one ever called us the favorites, that sort of, and of course, not literally no one called us favorites, but you know what I'm saying? And so what I think like a lot of this comes down to, and I can't give the whole take. I've been meaning to do like a podcast about this. But honestly, like 100 Thieves came into the scene later than all the heritage teams, but achieved the same like notoriety, the same like social engagement, the same hype as all of those teams, basically. Now, it's not like 1-to-1, like there's objectively more 100 Thieves fans than whatever, but it's like the heist dropped and it was doing crazy numbers. And Riot was like, hey, look at what 100 Thieves is doing. This is how you do it, guys. Right. And they made such a splash and got so much immediate attention. And a lot of it was like Nade Shot fans, someone who's not within the LCS community and instead is affiliated with COD community. And if you compare like the archetypal personalities between the COD community and the League community, it's kind of like the fiery, talkative, cocky, more jockish type personalities versus the more quiet, nerdy personalities, right? That's kind of like if you're playing high school with the scenes, right? That's kind of what it is. So if you think about it from a fan's perspective who doesn't like care much about 100 Thieves, it's got to be annoying, right? It's got to be annoying to see something new that comes in, it gets a crazy amount of attention, that brings in a lot of attention from sources that people are not either familiar with or comfortable with or used to, right? Because a lot of the eyeballs that were coming in from the 100 Thieves pipeline are not, endemic to LCS. And 100 Thieves was just cool. It was like, like look at the insane video editing, look at the insane branding, look at the really cool apparel. It's kind of streetwear. It's not like normal. It's way better and way more like thought out and executed than anything else in the scene. If you're an establishment scene person, you're going to be annoyed by that. Right. It's like the new hot girl that shows up at school, right? Like you're going to be annoyed by that. And so much of this, I think personally, and again, I know people are not going to like this take from me, but I think so much of it is down to just like people just kind of resenting the excitement and the cool factor that 100 Thieves brought with them when they entered the LCS for the first, full year. And they never got over that, right? Especially because you love to see someone like that loose. And us, if we were, 8th place team that first year, that would have been one thing. But if we are grand finals and lose, then that's more of an opportunity for them to meme and joke about us and everything. And they dumped on. Hoodie org was a thing, right?
Right.
There's that famous picture. It's actually my desktop on my computer of Nade Shot holding the LCS trophy with the hoodie that says Hoodie org. Love that so much. We can't pretend like that never happened, right?
Right.
It was just memes about like, oh, they're never going to be good enough. They just want to sell hoodies. I think it all just boils down to this resentment of the cool new people. And if you want another way to slice that up, compare them to FlyQuest. Okay? FlyQuest is like probably the most universally liked team out there. Who is like sitting around and be like, which team I hate and is annoying and I can't stand? FlyQuest. Who has ever said that? Right?
Right.
Because they came into the scene, they were good-natured, they didn't try to be cool, right? And instead, they just kind of did their own thing. They found their own unique lane for branding, which was great, but not like hype-oriented and not, cocky or whatever, right? And I'm sorry to say this, but they don't have many fans. Not many people actually like FlyQuest. Like, no one dislikes them, but they're not first on many people's lists. And maybe that'll change now because they've got very lovable personalities affiliated with them, right? Papa Smithy going over there, awesome, right? Ovely going over there, for most people, awesome, right? And then likable players. The players themselves are great. Like the team is just looks like their own plane in the LCS. So maybe that'll eventually change. But the fact is, eyeballs on the LCS are nowhere near what they used to be. The excitement isn't there. So I don't know how much you can possibly capitalize on that. It's gonna be a tough road for them to haul. And I don't think they'll ever get enough attention and excitement to put them into that category where people want to see them fail. And they won't come off as like this cool new thing that kind of upset the establishment that 100 Thieves was. So if people in the LCS scene were probably just a little more secure and like a little bit better adjusted, it probably wouldn't have been such a big deal. But definitely you're going to annoy people if you show up, make a lot of noise, and you do pretty well. And I think that's mainly what happened. So, I got so many more thoughts on that, so much more nuance, but we can't do it.
Yeah. We're about to start a whole new pod here.
Yeah. And I know plenty of people are going to hate what I said and disagree and bring up things. Go for it. Send me messages, whatever. I'm happy to hear it out.
We'll hold back for now.
Tim Sevenhusen asked Tim, good old Tim, Oracle's Elixir Tim, 100T Tim. How do you feel about Tenacity and Busio's trajectory as rookies after week 7? So this is someone that we, something that we had brought up earlier, Rookie Watch, right? What were the 2 assessments we kind of made? Well, I'll speak for myself. Tenacity, kind of rough timing, sometimes not with the team when he needs to be, sometimes slow to react, slow to be there. It's gotten a lot better, right? Even when we were losing, I thought Tenacity had started to really ramp it up. So I think that he is doing a lot to overcome those issues. And that's great. I feel like he's progressed. I'm happy with that. Busio, my thing was like, it kind of looks like he's tunnel vision on one kind of objective or priority sometimes. You know, like you said, ult the right person or protect Doublelift or whatever. But now it's a little looser, right? And maybe he's getting the opportunity to play on things that he's a little more free with. But
like
definitely feeling
a great roam to mid to make that counter play that we talked about, right? Like that doesn't happen if you are head down bot lane, nothing else is happening.
Yep. A few flashy plays here and there. I think that their progress is real. You know what I mean? And so they're definitely not there yet, but the progress is happening and it's good. I'm happy with it.
Like, I just want to make a point I made before, which is the CLG guys, they had our number this split. And the reason they had our number is because they had time to develop. And I'm not talking about 6 weeks. I'm talking about years.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we keep, maintain our long-termerism with these 2 guys. And look, if we don't play well next week and we don't 3-0, like I've projected, or we don't 2-1, like you prophesied, then I think it's still not time to panic. Because what you can't do with a rookie is after a couple of weeks of disappointing results, say, well, I guess it's doomed. And then you see them play well for a weekend and you're like, maybe they're back. And then the next week they go back to, regress to the norm here. Like you can't do that.
Right.
If your goal, if your goal is to have an immediate upgrade to your roster and to make a change that will allow you to get to Worlds, and then if you don't make Worlds, it's doomed, and so you might as well rebuild the whole roster, fine. Then do that. But if you're thinking about like next year, which is kind of crazy to say that that's being a long-termer, then give them more time. So that's how I feel about their trajectory. I think they're still capable of clearly of improving and playing better than we've seen. They're not at their ceiling. So I want to see more.
Yep. All right, we're gonna rapid fire the last 3 takes. Mostly because we've already talked about them, and also because we got to get out of here. So Amax Legit said, my weekly take: the org should hang 100 talk banner in the compound. Be pretty cool if they did, right? Be pretty cool if they did. That would suggest that the org won 100 talk championship. That's kind of an interesting thought.
They did win the Summoners Cup.
That's true. They also lost it. BC and Biddy have similar takes that we've kind of walked through. So BC said, this week's performance uptick an actual improvement or a bit of honeymoon with Nukeduck coming up to head coach? I find it hard to have actual faith in a trophy run, but maybe the boys did scale. So we've talked about the first part of that, but the second part, actual faith in a trophy run, do you have it?
I mean, call me back after we make playoffs and I'll give you my perspective on that.
Yeah.
But I have faith that we can at least put in an honest showing to make it to playoffs.
For sure.
We'll see if we do, but I think we can.
Yep. I'm not going to say trophy run. This is FlyQuest or C9 and no one else.
Oh, yeah.
Biddy says, my take's that Nukeduck is not really forcing the players to play in a specific fashion, and we're seeing more of what they've wanted to play now. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just not super willing to say it's Nukeduck's leadership that is making a difference. But regardless, it still will be better than where we were, even if it's just a mental reset for the players. I think a sound take, and it prompts me to add a little bit that I didn't do before from that interview with Degon, where he specifically mentioned the draft. He's like, yeah, this is really collaborative with the players, you know? And so I think we're seeing that for sure. Excellent take, Biddy. All right.
And I will add that I think we should expand our definition of leadership to include doing less to allow the players to do more. That is just a different way to lead, and it's no less valuable.
Yeah. And right now it may be more valuable than, say, the beginning of summer split. So we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, we got to wrap up and get out of here. We already did our predictions. Guys, again, thank you so much for all the messages and the tweets and everything about our announcement. The show's wrapping up. Seriously, it was very moving and tough to get through those without getting super emotional. And we got a freaking month left to do this. But we really love you guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sticking with us. We're going to have a lot of fun for this last month, so stick around. But until Rec League this Thursday, we shall say we love you and we miss you already.